Hello to everyone. Today I will present you my paper, which is on instabilities in Slovenian society. I was thinking for a long time how to begin my presentation and also how to begin my paper, and then I decided to begin both in a more narrative and more poetic way, maybe in Grimm's or better yet Andersen style, with the story which goes like, once upon a time, far, far away, there was a small but beautiful country named Slovenia, which was situated on the south of Central Europe and on the north of the Mediterranean. After centuries of struggles for own territory, ethnicity, culture and freedom, in 1990 it seemed that these dreams had finally become true. For almost 20 years it seemed that everything was going in the right direction, but then suddenly dark clouds began to accumulate over this small and beautiful country. And so it began the deterioration of economic and political situation, the weakening of social cohesion, the worsening of the general state of mind, values, perception, and hope. Despite this poetic introduction and an almost a tragic conclusion, unfortunately the Slovenian situation is anything but fairy tale resembling. Today I will present you the situation of nowadays society, focusing in the economic area more on the happenings from between 2000 and 2012, and in the political arena more on the first early elections that we had in the National Assembly in 2011. For many decades, Slovenia was a part of other entities and federations, monarchies. Here I put just a table for a basic overview. I won't explain this in detail. You can read it in my paper. Now, focusing on the developments of economic arena, summing up the situation, the economico-political situation during 1918 and 1990, Slovenia was performing under the communism, or as we like to call it, socialism, which left a crucial mark in every field of Slovenian society. With its secession from Yugoslavia in 1990 and with independence in 1991, the transition process started, during which, especially in its early phases, Slovenia was often addressed and seen as a story of success. Due to its good initial position being largely the result of Austro-Hungarian legacy. All this transition seemed that, with this transition, it seemed that Slovenia was finally determined to intersect with the old regime, namely the socialism, and to launch a new political and new economic system, democracy and market-oriented economy. Nevertheless, there are two possible ways in which transition can be performed, can be carried out. Shock therapy or gradualism. Slovenia decided for the latter, so for gradualism, which eventually disclosed all unresolved issues that Slovenia had when it was still a part of Yugoslavia. When the market was regulated, there was the limited private ownership, and also it disclosed issues when Slovenia was already an independent state, which was a questionable privatization. While being still a part of Yugoslavia, Slovenia was characterized by limited business initiative, publicly owned properties, strong political interference into economy, which resulted in the lack of supportive environment of entrepreneur development, in the lack of free market and so on, which is still visible and still a problem in today's economy. Here I put just a general chart for a general overview how Slovenia was performing from 1990 till 2011 in the field of GDP and FDI, inflow and total. As you can see, the trend of GDP was progressing rather well, and it was growing, more or less growing constantly. Regarding the FDIs, the situation was more dynamical. It seemed that from 1990, Slovenia was progressing rather well, even exceeding the average development of the EU until 2004, and even more in 2008, when the global economic crisis struck. And it seems that this global economic crisis hit Slovenia more than other countries, since until then Slovenia is not able to catch up again with the EU average. For example, also other media, forecasts of other media are becoming more and more real and a real problem, since the European Bank for Restructuring and Development predicts a 1.4% of economic decline for Slovenia, which is the worst forecast among other Central European countries and also Baltic states. Slovenian poor economic situation is a result of several mutually dependent factors, among which the most important role is played by Slovenian banks, which are becoming heavily dependent on the liquidity provided by the European Central Bank. And there was another big problem in 2012 when Slovenian government had to stuff 380 million of euros, which represents 1% of GDP, into state bank Nova Ljubljanska Banka. Already in 2010, the previous left government, Pahor's government, set 6 priorities to resolve the crisis, to overcome the crisis. Here I put these 6 priorities, you can read about them. And also the new right government, the Janša's government, was forced to adopt some measures, the latter consisting of reducing the public consumption of 10%, following with later structural reform, which will consist of fiscal consolidation and the launch of a new economic cycle. All of this with the goal, a faster growth of Slovenia from 2013 onwards. Now moving towards the developments in political arena, it all started, the tension started in October 2012 with the resolution of the previous Pahor's government, left government, and with the first early elections in the National Assembly on 4 December 2012. Here I've put the lists, the votes of the lists. Now, the additional tensions were caused with the problem of who would be the new mandatory. Normally, the mandatory would be the president of the party winning the majority of the votes, but in this case, the established procedure, established protocol encountered problems. The president of Slovenia, Danilo Turk, suggested Zoran Janković as the mandatory, but who wasn't able to form the coalition, so the group of members of the parliament suggested Janez Janša, the premier of the president of the second biggest party, to form the government, who succeeded, and his cabinet was approved by the National Assembly on the 10th February 2013. But as this wasn't enough, because this caused some major problems, firstly because Janković, as winning the more elections, was not the mandatory and thus was not the premier, voters felt offended, unconsiderate. On the other hand, voters of Janez Janša felt thrilled. But this happy situation was gone when the new government adopted these measures, restrictions to overcome the crisis. Okay, as this wasn't enough, there is a protest shiver going on in Slovenia from October and November 2012. I won't go into details of every single protest because there are a lot of them every day emerging new ones. In fact, just today we are having one gathering, one peaceful protest. Many of them, they were carried out in different, the extents were different. Some of them were attended up to 10,000 people, which is a lot for Slovenia because we have 2 million inhabitants of all, so like your city. So the crucial, here I put just the crucial demands of all these protests, which are the resignation of the political elite, the dissatisfaction with government, with mayors, with opposition, coalition. The people demand the radical reform of the juridical system, the prosecution of the corruption, of nepotism, and so on and so on. Then another problem is beginning to steering the ghost, which is the anti-corruption, the declares of Anti-Corruption Commission that the president, so the premier Janez Janša, the president of the biggest party in the coalition and also the president of the biggest party of the opposition failed to report their assets, which brought again more than 10,000 people to streets with under the slogan, the second Slovenian uprising, again with the same demands, the resignation of the political elite. Also abroad, Slovenian situation is becoming quite a problem. For example, the U.S. ambassador Musomeli sees no future in Slovenian protest, Slovenian situation. The situation is more complex than they first thought in Washington. Then the Economist, who cites the Slovenian newspaper Delo that Slovenian government is clinically dead, raising the question, how long can it last? Then the situation is further aggravated by economic situation. For example, the GDP has shrunken for 2% in 2012. We are waiting for additional 1.4%. Then we have already a 12% of unemployment. There is a need for a bailout from Eurozone partners, which is hindered by all developments in political and the civil society. There are also demands rising for Premier Janez Janša to leave the coalition, to resign as the Prime Minister, and so on. Okay, proceeding to the conclusion. The Slovenian deteriorating situation results in fear by foreign investors and countries that could save Slovenia or could help Slovenia to overcome the crisis. But this is also frightening for Slovenes who do not see a possible brighter, better future. A growing number of outgoing Slovenes, either for study or for work, or just to transfer money or companies, is appearing as a panic diaspora. All hopes which were put in a new, brighter, better future with the secession from Yugoslavia and with independence in 1991 are now turning into a despair and dystopia of Slovenian society. There's also the crucial dilemma: who would be the new mandatory, the new premier, if the government fails, since the adoption of new measurement, anti-crisis measurement, are much needed. At this point, the only possible conclusion, which I see, is the crucial question. Are we going towards the future with market-oriented economy with all its pluses and minuses, or are we going towards the past characterized by instabilities in economic and political arena, characterized by lack of electricity, goods, freedom, and hope? Thank you.